Hello friends and welcome back. So today we are going to be building the ultimate no fuss load order achievement friendly edition. So get ready to pull out your wallets because this is not going to be cheap. Consider this your warning if you are morally opposed to paid mods. This video is positively going to trigger you, but if you are morally opposed to paid mods and addicted to rage, this is the perfect video for you. You will be raging for weeks, but get ready, sit back and enjoy the show. We are going to be going through this load order. It is just 6 mods and it's going to be the most impactful change to your gameplay experience that you can possibly do with as little mods as possible. I'm going to go ahead and present this in order of installation so you can just follow along with the video and it's already going to be in the correct order. But let's go ahead and get right down into it with our first mod. At the top of our load order is going to be Forgotten Frontiers POI expansion. This mod is a fantastic mod. So this mod helps address one of the major problems within Starfield, which is the procedural generation. It's not inherently wrong or bad. What it suffers from is a lack of content. This adds 5 more extremely large and detailed points of interest to the procedural generation to help buffer that out a little bit more, fleshing things out. One thing I do love about this is I think the mod author actually did a better job than Bethesda at level design, environmental storytelling, and also making sure that these points of interest are diverse. They don't look the same, they all look different. We're just taking a look at the one right here. They're very interesting points of interest. I would highly recommend this to anyone. It's a cost of $5, so you get 5 points of interest. They're spread throughout the procedural generation. You can find them all about. And this really will help the procedural generation feel a lot better, having these little gems hidden out there within the procedural generation itself. And I really mean that. These are gems. The level design is very much focused for replayability. So even if you've already done these points of interest before, you're going to want to do them again because they are fun. There's tons of different routes to go through these points of interest, and they have lots of like explodables hidden around. There are tons of enemy combatants. The difficulty has been definitely upped from the base game, and it just has superior level design to what the base game has. Great environmental storytelling. It is a must for any load order, in my opinion. The mod author did a fantastic job, but let's go move on to our number 2 spot in this load order. So coming in at our number 2 spot is going to be Forgotten Frontiers 2. So this just recently came out, and as we can see, yet again, the mod author is positively cooking. He's come out with basically another pack. This is $5 again. It has 5 points of interest in it. They're very big, voluminous points of interest. They take a while to clear. Fantastic level design, fantastic environmental storytelling. They're very different designed from the first batch, so you're going to continue to get more diversity in there. If you get both of these, that 80 hostile points of interest that are in the base game's procedural generation now goes to 90, so that's a nice bump up, an increase to the amount of points of interest within the procedural generation. But I should say the mod author did make improvements with his second iteration on this. Specifically, he added gameplay options that allow you to control the spawn rate of these, so you can basically dial them up so that they spawn very commonly, or you can dial them down so that they only spawn in realistic places. Like this hydroelectric plant is only going to spawn in places that a hydroelectric plant should be, and this is basically going to allow player preference. If you want to see these things very commonly, you can dial it down to a common very easy setting where they'll just show up everywhere. If you want them only showing up in a realistic place, they're going to be a lot harder to find, mind you, but you can set it like that. And from what I heard, the mod author is going to double back on the first edition and add that change to it as well, so you'll be able to adjust that as well. Another notable change to this is he added a quest marker to each of these, so if you're doing any of the procedurally generated quests within the game, they do sync up to this pack here, and you'll be able to like pick up up a procedurally generated quest, and it'll send you to these locations, which is a fantastic change. But let's move on to our next mod in this load order. So this next mod in our load order is going to be Watchtower. This comes in at $10. This is an expensive one, but it adds a lot of things that you're going to want in a load order. One, it adds a faction-sized quest to your load order. Two, there is a new gameplay loop that is added with the destruction of Watchtower listening posts and Watchtower arrays. There's also new mechanics with sky drops and orbital strikes. As we can see here, I've summoned an AI mech from orbit to assist me in battle. So this adds a whole lot of features, as well as a fleet mechanic to boot with this. So you'll have a fleet mechanic in space, you have these sky drops, you have orbital strikes, you have a faction-sized quest on top of this, the new gameplay loop. There's also neuroamps that are added into this. There is a ton of content with this, so I know this sounds very expensive at $10 for a mod, but this is more than worth it. You'll easily get 20 hours of gameplay out of here, not to mention the added mechanics of the sky drops plus the orbital strikes. You can take that into like vanilla content and it blends in perfectly fine and everything works very well. So this is definitely an addition that you are going to want to make to your load order. I know it sounds a little bit pricey, but the amount of stuff that's in this makes it well worth the $10. In my opinion, this would be like fair market priced. Like if this was a DLC from Bethesda, I would expect this to be priced at about $20. There's a fair amount of content here, a lot of stuff that you are getting out of this, but we are going to go ahead and move on to the next mod in our load order here. So our next mod in this load order is going to be Bedlam Dungeon Randomizer. And I know what you're saying, this isn't achievement friendly, this is free. Well, just recently on Tuesday, another version dropped. It is priced at $3. It is achievement friendly. It is by the same author, and it is completely achievement friendly. It costs $3. I've been playing with the free version of this for like the better part of a year now, and I would recommend it to absolutely anyone. What does this do? You're observing here at the Roost, we are seeing a raid of spacers upon this ecliptic here, so it adds things like raids, reinforcements, but the base effect, what it does is it randomizes the position of enemy NPCs within points of interest. So how does this affect the gameplay? Even if you are showing up to that repeat point of interest, it's going to be different every single time, and it's going to play different because Bedlam Dungeon Randomizer is going to randomize those positions. You might see a raid from an opposing faction, or you might see reinforcements show up. There's a whole lot that you can do here, a lot of gameplay settings, so you can dial it into your specific playstyle and how you want this to function. But let's go ahead and move on to our next one. So coming up in the number 5 spot in our ultimate load order here is going to be Starborn Among Us. So this is very much in the same vein as Bedlam Dungeon Randomizer. What is it doing? It's kind of changing the enemy NPCs to make them fresh and new, so when you go into points of interest, things are different. So how does this work? What it does is it randomly grabs enemy NPCs and upgrades them into Starborn. So we're going to see a couple Starborn up ahead in this combat situation here, and one thing I am going to let you know about Starborn Among Us, this is extremely customizable, so you can really choose like how frequently you want Starborn showing up in the points of interest. You can also choose to like how frequently you want the Starborn upgraded into like Elite Starborn, where they're a lot more difficult and they have those really big health bars, so it gives you these cool little boss fights unexpectedly within these points of interest. This is a lovely addition to absolutely any load order. It costs $3, so this is a fairly cheap one. Same with Bedlam Dungeon Randomizer. I would suggest absolutely both of them, though Bedlam you can pick up for free. It is out there. But if you care about achievements, you can definitely pick up these two, and these two are very transformative to how points of interest work, and so it makes it so everything's not the same when you go back in. The enemies are a little bit different. You have the Starborn popping up here and there from time to time, and this just makes things a lot different, more dynamic when you're running through points of interest. It's a great addition to any load order, as I said, but we are going to go ahead and move on to our next and final spot within our load order here. Alright, this brings us to our sixth and final spot within our load order here, but this is the most important spot. It's the anchor to everything, DarkStar, Total Gameplay Overhaul. So what does this do? This basically expands the end game, completely overhauling the gameplay itself. As you can see here, this is a base that you cannot build within the base game itself, so we have new outpost tabs. We also have new ship parts that are added to this. The weapon crafting is expanded. There's more weapon tiers that are added to the game. There's expanded spacesuit crafting as well, and more tiers added to that as well. We have apparel crafting, and then we also have things like dynamic level scaling. So what does this do? Things are scaled to the player, but it's done dynamically, so early game areas still feel like early game areas, and end game areas feel like end game areas, and they'll feel this way all the way to level 999. So here we're taking a look at the gameplay settings. One in particular I want to point out is the challenge level. If you set this to punish me, what is that going to do? It's going to upscale the enemy's weapon and armor to make them a lot more difficult, but it's also going to enhance their AI. So what does this mean? It's going to make them a lot more aggressive so that they will charge you more frequently, and they're also going to be trying to outflank you, and they'll pursue you more diligently, and they stay cautioned a lot longer if you're trying to hide from them. So this makes the game a lot more difficult and a lot more challenging, and it's much more rewarding. I will note anything that I said has gameplay settings. You're going to be changing in here and fine-tuning it within the gameplay settings. That's things like Starborn Among Us, Bedlam Dungeon Randomizer, and Forgotten Frontiers. But let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. One last parting word for our achievement hounds here that refuse to touch any free creations. The second you install a non-achievement friendly creation, what the game does is it branches your character. As you can see here, my characters are duplicated, meaning there is one with that creations tag that is not achievement friendly, but there is a duplicate that is achievement friendly. So this is something to consider, because you can very much have your cake and eat it too. I know when the next DLC comes back, I will go ahead and switch to my achievement only character just to get my achievements. So by all means, please go ahead and enjoy some free mods. So, if you were going to go ahead and buy all these mods within this load order I presented, the total cost is going to be $36. And I know some people are probably screaming right now to themselves at the outrageous cost of this, but I assure you this is extremely transformative to Starfield. It addresses a lot of the issues that were discussed about the base game, the procedural generation, repeat content, etc. So it is absolutely well worth your money, but you know what? If you were really angry at this load order, I'm going to put up a mod maximalist approach. This is mixing both paid and free mods to come up with the best possible load order that does not break your budget. It's my personal approach, but if you are absolutely morally opposed to any mods that cost money at all, and you desire a free, no-fuss load order, please comment down below. If I get enough comments, I'll go ahead and do it. And like always, have a nice night.